Welcome to our latest deep dive. Today, we are on a mission, and I am speaking directly to you, the listener.
Yeah.
We're tackling a topic that feels like the massive, unavoidable elephant in the room for so many of us.
Yeah.
Something that affects roughly half of all Americans right this very second. We're talking about how to actually save money when you are stuck living paycheck to paycheck.
It is a heavy topic. And just hearing that statistic is enough to make anyone's chest tighten, honestly.
Seriously.
When you look at the research and see that around 50% of Americans are operating with zero financial margin, it validates the immense, suffocating stress so many people are feeling daily. It's not some isolated struggle born of personal failure. It is a widespread, systemic reality.
Right. And let's be honest, if you're listening to this, you probably already know Personal Finance 101.
Oh, absolutely.
You know you're supposed to have a budget. You know you're supposed to spend less than you earn. But when you are in the thick of it, so much of the financial advice out there feels completely out of touch.
Right. Yeah, it really does.
It usually sounds like it was written for someone with a massive disposable income who just needs to, I don't know, stop buying lattes.
Right. The classic latte factor.
Exactly. But looking at these notes today, the approach is fundamentally different. This is a surprisingly doable, incredibly practical guide to squeezing savings out of the absolute tightest budgets. And spoiler alert, there is absolutely no six-figure salary required to make this work.
And I think that is the beauty of the material we are analyzing today. It completely reorients your perspective on what saving actually looks like in practice.
Yeah.
The overarching theme here isn't about suddenly generating a massive new stream of income or, starting 3 side hustles.
It is exhausting just to think about.
Exactly. It is entirely about finding what the research calls hidden money. It focuses on strategic, highly intentional mindset shifts. The authors acknowledge how structurally impossible saving might seem when you're just getting by, but they offer a very concrete ladder out of that paralysis.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the very first of the core strategies we're looking at starts right inside your own head. And it sounds deceptively simple.
It does.
The directive is strike the word can't from your vocabulary. You literally have to scrub that word out of your daily language when you are talking or thinking about your finances.
What's fascinating here is the underlying behavioral psychology of that simple linguistic shift. When you look at your depleted budget and you say, I can't save,
You just shut down.
you are effectively giving your brain permission to stop looking for solutions. It is a cognitive dead end. You are flipping the off switch on the problem-solving centers of your mind.
Wow. Yeah.
But by striking the word can't, you force yourself into an active, somewhat uncomfortable state of observation. You start actively looking for the places where money is, as the research describes it, slipping through the cracks.
Slipping through the cracks. We all know that feeling. But let's get into the reality of what those cracks actually look like, because the examples provided in the source are things we all do.
Oh, definitely.
For instance, the classic $15 lunch out. Now, we've all heard the stop buying lunch advice. But the perspective shift here is what's interesting. $15 doesn't feel like a life-changing amount of money in the middle of a chaotic workday when you're just grabbing a quick sandwich between meetings.
No, it just feels like survival.
Right. But the challenge from the source is to redirect that specific $15. Instead of just absorbing it back into your checking account, it could be going straight into a retirement account.
Exactly. It is a profound shift in how we assign long-term value to our daily impulsive habits. It transforms a fleeting 15-minute convenience into a tangible building block for long-term security.
Yeah.
And the authors don't stop at the lunch example. They dive right into the classic modern money leak, the streaming service you aren't really using. We all have them.
Oh, I know I do.
The advice here is brilliantly blunt. Cancel it. But again, the mechanics matter here. Don't just cancel it and let that $15 dissolve back into the general chaos of your checking account. Purposefully, manually take that exact amount and put it toward paying off a debt.
But let's dig into the why of that for a second. Why do we hold on to those subscriptions in the first place? It's not just laziness, is it?
No, not at all. It is deeply rooted in what behavioral economists call subscription fatigue, combined with the gym membership illusion.
The gym membership illusion. I like that.
Right. So we keep the obscure documentary streaming service, not because we actually watch it, but because of the idealized version of ourselves who would watch it.
We want to be the person who watches documentaries on a Tuesday night.
Precisely. We are paying for the fantasy of future use. The research asks you to confront that fantasy cancel the service, and use that money to solve a real-world problem today, like outstanding debt.
I love that. You're auditing your passive financial commitments. And that leads us organically into the next major concept here.
Mhm.
I want to challenge you, the listener, to really scrutinize where your money goes automatically.
Yes.
Because the second prompt from the research is incredibly empowering, but also requires rolling up your sleeves a bit. It says, make yourself the priority. It assumes you think you are too broke to save, and it pushes back hard on that assumption.
It pushes back with a very specific, actionable challenge that has nothing to do with your daily spending habits. The challenge is to cut your utility bills by 10%.
10%.
It specifically calls out aiming for a lower electric bill. When you think about making yourself the priority, you don't usually think about your thermostat or your light
Yeah,
switches.
you're not.
But the logic here is ironclad. Every dollar you don't send to the electric company is a dollar that stays with you. You are prioritizing your own future financial stability over ambient energy consumption.
Right, but let's bridge the gap between that high-level theory and the practical reality. Cut your electric bill by 10% sounds great on paper, but how does someone actually do that without freezing in the dark?
That is where the practical, everyday adjustments come into play. It is about the cumulative effect of small changes. We are talking about lowering the temperature on your water heater by a few degrees.
Which you'd probably never even notice.
Exactly, something you will never physically notice in the shower, but your bill will reflect it. It means unplugging vampire appliances. Your coffee maker, your microwave, your television, they are drawing power simply by being plugged into the wall, even when turned off.
Just slowly draining money.
Yes, it also means washing your laundry in cold water instead of hot.
Hmm.
These aren't massive lifestyle sacrifices. They are mechanical efficiencies that claw back your money.
You're quite literally paying yourself instead of the utility company by just turning a dial on your water heater. And the investigative approach doesn't stop at the fuse box either. The next step is to sit down and rigorously examine those credit card statements. This is where we really get into the weeds of this concept of hidden money.
Yes, the hidden money concept is the anchor for this entire philosophy. When the authors tell you to comb through those statements, they're asking you to confront the small, unexamined recurring expenses that act as silent leaks in your budget.
And it's terrifying to look sometimes.
Let's be honest. We often fear looking at our credit card statements because we view them as a record of our guilt. We know we overspent, so we avoid looking, but the research is asking you to flip that narrative.
Flip the narrative.
View that statement as a treasure map. You are actively hunting for those tiny leaks, the app subscriptions, the forgotten free trials that rolled over, the annual recurring fees you forgot about, so you can plug the leak and redirect that hidden money straight into your savings.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because once you find that hidden money, let's say you clawed back $30 to the electric company and $20 from forgotten subscriptions, you have to protect that money from yourself.
Yes, you do.
The real danger is just letting it sit in your checking account. Right. And that brings us to the next massive behavioral trick from the source. Automate everything. The research is definitive on this. You have to whisk the money away before you can even spend it.
This is perhaps the most crucial mechanical step, and it is deeply rooted in human behavioral patterns. Human behavior is largely driven by momentum, and willpower is a finite resource.
It really is. By Friday, my willpower is totally gone.
Right. If you have to make the active, conscious choice to log into your bank and transfer money into savings every single payday, you are relying on your willpower. Eventually, you will have a stressful week at work, your willpower will be completely depleted, and you simply won't make the transfer.
You'll just leave it there.
But by automating the process, by whisking the money away before it ever hits your available balance, you remove the need for daily willpower entirely. You will find that you do not miss it. Because psychologically, we adapt our lifestyle to the visible balance we see in our checking account. Out of sight, out of mind.
And the research gives us a brilliantly specific example to illustrate this. It talks about taking just $50 a month, maybe that's the money you saved from the utilities and the subscriptions, and automating it.
Right.
But it doesn't just say to put it in a traditional savings account. It specifically recommends putting it into a Roth IRA. Now, for someone who might be intimidated by financial acronyms or who feels like tying up their meager savings in a retirement account is terrifying, this might sound like terrible advice.
It does sound counterintuitive at first.
But there is a massive, incredibly practical benefit to this specific account, isn't there?
Yes, and this is a critical technical distinction that directly addresses the fear of saving while living paycheck to paycheck. The key benefit of the Roth IRA mentioned in the text is that you can access your contributions if you really need them.
Right.
Because you have already paid taxes on the money you put into a Roth IRA, the government allows you to pull those original contributions back out without a penalty if you are in a pinch.
That is huge. Just to be totally clear, we were talking about the money you put in, not the earnings it makes over time, right?
Exactly, the principle. When you are operating on a tight margin, locking your money away in a place where you can never reach it in a genuine emergency feels dangerous. It feels irresponsible, frankly.
Yeah, it feels like you're putting yourself at risk.
But knowing that the money is compounding for your retirement while still being accessible if a true crisis hits provides a psychological safety net. It makes the act of whisking that $50 away feel secure rather than restrictive.
It is the perfect balance of planning for tomorrow while protecting yourself today. Now, speaking of protecting yourself, let's talk about the daily spending decisions. We all know we're supposed to separate wants from needs. That's Personal Finance 101 again.
Right.
But the research here introduces a filter specifically designed for people who have zero room for error. You have to ask one simple question before every purchase. Is this a want or is this a need? But the authors use a very specific word here. They say you have to be ruthless about this distinction.
Ruthless is the operative word, not casual, not thoughtful. Ruthless, because the blurry line between a want and a need is exactly where we do our most creative mental gymnastics.
Mental gymnastics is the perfect way to phrase it.
We are incredibly skilled at convincing ourselves that something we simply desire is actually vital to our survival or our productivity.
Okay, but I want to push back on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to say be ruthless in a spreadsheet. But wait, when you've worked a 50-hour week, you're utterly exhausted, your brain is fried, and you are staring at your kitchen, that $15 takeout doesn't feel like a want. It feels like a psychological need just to get through the day and function tomorrow. How does this strategy suggest we combat that very real, very human mental exhaustion?
That is the ultimate friction point,
That's
isn't
the
it?
one.
The physical and mental exhaustion. And the research doesn't deny that the takeout feels like a need in that moment. But being ruthless means stripping away the rationalization of the present moment and looking at the structural reality.
Fair.
Does your body need calories to survive? Yes. Do those calories need to be prepared by a restaurant and delivered to your door in a paper bag? No.
Ouch. Fair enough.
The food is a need, the convenience is the want. If you anticipate that exhaustion, if you know Friday night you will be too tired to cook, the ruthless approach means meal prepping on Sunday so the food is already there. It is about outsmarting your future exhausted self.
That makes total sense. You are building guardrails for when your willpower fails. And to paint a clear picture of what ruthless actually looks like in everyday life, let's look at the exact examples provided in the text.
Yes, let's look at those.
Medicine and groceries, firmly categorized as undeniable needs, obviously. But then it points to that new phone case. The new phone case is probably a want. I can just hear the excuses now, right?
Yeah.
But my old case is scratched. But I need to protect the phone so it doesn't break, which would cost more money.
The rationalization engine kicks in instantly. A phone case provides protection, so it feels adjacent to a need. It feels like an investment. But being ruthless means stripping away that rationalization. Does your current case still physically work and protect the phone?
Yes.
Then the new one is a want, purely for aesthetics. If we apply this ruthless filter to every single transaction, the authors point out that it can free up surprising amounts of cash. It is not about constantly depriving yourself of joy. It is about reclaiming the cash that gets lost in the gray area between true necessity and impulse desire.
It is a radical kind of honesty with yourself. And you are going to need all the cash you can free up from those ruthless decisions, because that brings us to the final goal. And I have to be honest, knowing that our audience is largely people trying to navigate very tight margins.
Right.
When you're living paycheck to paycheck, reading the research's recommendation for an emergency fund feels almost insulting. It feels like a mountain you can't possibly climb, because it states everyone needs an emergency fund covering 8 to 12 months of expenses. 8 to 12 months.
It is a massive number.
If you are struggling to cover next Tuesday, hearing that you need a year of expenses saved up sounds utterly fundamentally impossible.
It does sound like a mountain that is too high to climb. It can evoke a visceral reaction of frustration. And the authors even acknowledge that reaction. They openly state that it might seem impossible from where you are standing right now. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the strategy provides the exact solution to combat that overwhelming feeling of paralysis. You do not build an 8 to 12-month emergency fund overnight, or even in a year. The directive explicitly tells you to start small. It breaks it down to a micro level, saving just $20 a week.
$20 a week. When you break it down like that, suddenly the mountain looks a little more like a staircase.
Exactly.
You skip the $15 lunch, you ruthless filter out a $5 coffee, or delay buying that new phone case, and boom, you have your $20 for the week.
Precisely. It brings everything we just discussed over the last few minutes full circle. The $20 isn't magically appearing from a raise at work. It is the hidden money you found by striking the word can't, by prioritizing your electric bill, and by being ruthless about your wants.
It's already your money.
Yes. Over time, that $20 a week builds momentum. The massive goal of 8 to 12 months isn't there to shame you for not having it. It's there to provide a North Star, a long-term destination that you walk toward one $20 step at a time.
That is a deeply comforting way to look at it. It takes the shame out of the equation entirely. And it perfectly spotlights the core philosophy, the ultimate mantra of all the material we've reviewed today. It states, live a life below your means but within your needs.
Let's really unpack that distinction because it is brilliant and gets to the heart of sustainable personal finance.
Okay.
Below your means dictates the mathematical reality. You must spend less money than you bring in. But within your needs dictates the quality of your human experience. It means you are not starving yourself. You are securing your groceries, your shelter, and your medicine.
Right.
You are simply removing the excess wants that silently drain your resources. And the powerful concluding point here is vital. You do not need to make six figures to start saving. The raw size of your income is actually less important than the behavioral strategy you apply to it.
So what does this all mean? If we synthesize this entire strategic formula from everything we've looked at today, it is actually incredibly straightforward. You start with exactly what you can right now today.
Yes.
You automate that amount so you don't have to rely on your exhausted brain to remember it. And then you slowly increase your savings as you continue to audit your life and find more of that hidden money in your budget.
It is a gradual, compounding process of behavioral change. It is about taking back agency from your automated, unthinking spending habits and replacing them with automated saving habits.
Agency. That's the perfect word for it.
For you, the listener, the reason this matters, the reason you should care about tweaking your thermostat or ruthlessly evaluating a phone case purchase, is that financial security is rarely about massive, sudden wealth. It is about small, consistent actions over time. It is about building a system that works for you in the background, whether that is $20 a week in an emergency fund or a $50 monthly Roth IRA contribution.
It really is a journey of 1,000 miles, starting with a single step, or in this case, a $20 deposit. To recap the journey we've mapped out for you today, it all begins with eliminating the word can't from your vocabulary so you can actually see the problem-solving possibilities in front of you.
Right.
Then, you hunt down that hidden money by actively cutting utility bills, washing in cold water, unplugging vampires, and canceling those unused subscriptions born of fantasy. You rigorously and ruthlessly filter your wants from your true needs, outsmarting your future tired self.
Exactly.
You automate the process like whisking away that $50 into a Roth IRA where you can still safely access the principal contributions if disaster strikes. And finally, you start the long, slow, steady marathon toward an 8 to 12-month emergency fund, beginning with just $20 a week.
The overarching lesson woven through all of this is agency. Even when you feel completely trapped in a paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, these strategies prove that you still have levers you can pull. You still have choices you can make that will incrementally buy back your financial freedom and reduce your stress.
That is incredibly empowering. It takes the power away from the paycheck and puts it back in your hands. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Based on all the themes and behavioral shifts we've explored today, ask yourself this. What if the biggest obstacle to your financial security isn't the size of your paycheck, but simply the automated habits you haven't set up yet?
It's a completely different way to look at your bank account and your daily routine.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope this gives you the tools, the perspective, and the confidence to take that first small $20 step today. Catch you next time.